Project Scarred is as confusing a fucking mess as its meaningless name might have you believe. Alright, maybe there is some meaning to it, but it's not immediately apparent to me, so I'm just gonna insult it instead. Upon a quick once-over, you'll notice that this is an anime that fancies itself multi-medium in style because the usually two-dimensionally drawn characters are more often than not surrounded by three-dimensional CG objects and backgrounds. Thankfully, the show doesn't look like complete garbage, and with some level of frequency pulls this look off without being too much of an eyesore, but make no mistake, there are times you will notice some janky bullshit or awkward movement on screen as a result of this decision. I'm noticing up to this point, by the way, as a quick aside, that I haven't spent a lot of time talking about the actual art of many of these shows, but it's really because I found many of them to be lacking in anything to stand out from my perspective. For the most part, these shows haven't been poor in visuals for me, but I haven't found myself going, wow, that's impressive or unique, much either. It's often streamlined designs or mediocre animation that doesn't really compel me to say much about it at all, but maybe that's harsh. I'll mention some stuff later that I think goes a little more out of its way to be visually enthralling, but I digress. Project Scarred has some decent character designs, but they definitely strike me as action movie boy band members, and to be honest, I couldn't tell this guy from this guy at first glance. Project Scarred's real issues come when you actually start listening to it though, because the story is seriously more convoluted and overcomplicated than Back Arrows. In fact, I watched this with a friend, and by the end of our viewing, we still essentially had no fucking idea what was going on. Our story begins in a slum of the Akatsuki Special Ward in Tokyo, where a major conflict created a region of lawlessness. This conflict seems to boil down to a bunch of big companies wanting to build a mega shopping mall here in the past before a war broke out over who was going to get to put a Sears where, until violent criminal gangs thought it would be cool to get involved, leading to an uncontrollable situation, and everything was just dropped and now it's a shithole. Yamato, our main man, lives here with his adoptive brother, who both admire this guy, Eiji, that everyone knows as the hero of Akatsuki because he personally ended major conflicts. He did this by using superpowers granted to him by a magic tattoo he calls a Scarred, that allows him to be impervious to everyone's biggest weakness, bullets. Yamato and Eiji meet while trying to help some kid and have a pretty cool shooty bang bang fight before realizing they're both cool with each other. Later, after we're briefly fed some more exposition and introduced to like 4 factions that exist in this hellhole, Yamato again teams up with Eiji to kill some smugglers. Ultimately, this leads to Eiji getting killed, but not before passing off his Scarred Cerberus to Yamato. The police find the new vigilante Scarred Yamato and tell him to join them or they'll kill his brother or something. He decides not to and instead chooses to do something unlike these fucking pigs and kill some more gang thugs that are attempting to murder a woman in broad daylight while the cops sit there with their fat guts hanging out. Then he runs away with Eiji's old friends who question him for a while, and that's basically the whole 2 episodes, but there's definitely a lot of details I left out because it's way too fucking much information for a single human being to follow. My verdict on this is that there are some alright fight scenes going on here if you can get past that it's all a bunch of Final Fantasy characters shooting each other. I really can't speak for the story at this point because I think there's probably a lot more that needs to be shown before anyone really knows what the hell's happening, but my first impression that it's a bit much and kinda cringy with all the special vocab being thrown around and the weird backstory about a financial district being taken over by criminals for some reason. You'd think the big companies wouldn't have it since a massive amount of money is just being burned. But again, I really don't know what I'm looking at here, I'm just too stupid. What can I say? If you think you're so smart, then you go watch it.